Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Zombicide Invader. So this is the space sci-fi version of Zombicide. So there's of course classic Zombicide or second edition, which you fight in like the city, in the town, and different areas like that. More modern era. Then there's of course Black Plague, Green Horde, and then the upcoming Winter Death. Which are the fantasy, which are your, like, orc zombies, goblin zombies, stuff like that. And your magical characters have magical spells and different races, like some elves and dwarves, and all that fun stuff. And then this is our space sci-fi version, which is the third, like, big set to come out. And then there's, after that, then there's also, they have the Western, the Undead or Alive set, so if you want to play in the old Wild Wild West. And then there's Marble Zombies, which is a similar but separate thing off to the side. So there's a bunch of different expansions, there'll be a ton of different videos for this series. This is the first one, because of course there's like the second base game, some expansions, all the Kickstarter content, all of that fun stuff. So this is going to be a two-parter video. First part, we're just going to kind of go over, do a quick look over the components, and kind of go through the rule book. And then the second one, we'll actually dive more into looking at each of the miniatures, and the different monsters and stuff like that. But we want to start out by kind of just saying what is different. If you've never played a Zombicide game before, what is Zombicide? The idea is you are a survivor trying to play through. They have campaigns in here. You have various maps, you have campaigns that'll tell you what to do. Objectives, sometimes it's escape the map, sometimes it's collect all the things, then escape the map, sometimes it's defeat all the enemies, sometimes it's just survive for so many turns. A bunch of different like little missions you can do. But your goal is you're going to take one of your human or humanoid, could be an alien in this game, survivors, collect various loot and gear, level up to gain different abilities, and try and stay alive or defeat the abominations and the zombies. In this one, though, they're referred to as Xenos. So although they work, they work the exact same and they're interchangeable to zombies, instead they're Xenos, so they're kind of like, they're sort of like zombie aliens kind of thing. And you travel along the map. That's the basis of it. There are a few different rules. Here's more of the components, list of all the cards, bunch of tokens. Of course, there's a big story for it, but I'm not going to read through all that. But there are some difference from the more typical Zombicide games. So there's your other two main ones that were out before, Classic and the Dark Ages, Fantasy. Yeah, so this is just basic setup. I'm not going to go through all that nitpicky stuff there. I kind of want to do is go through and just show some of the differences in some of the gameplay stuff. So every character is going to be one of two different things, at least in the base set. Some of the other sets might add other additional groupings, but they're either civilians or soldiers. So each one will have their own special type of ability on there. So if we take a look at the cards quick, I'm not going to explain all the abilities on everybody, but this is a soldier, so I'll have a little red mark up there, versus the yellow one that's civilian. The biggest difference between the two is the health. Soldiers have armor, so they have one more health than civilians. The other difference is what they can do. Civilians may search any room in any zone, but don't have armor. So they can find, searching is what you do to find different various weapons and items that'll help you survive, armor, things like that. Where soldiers can only search in security room, but have higher armor. So there's your difference. The beefier characters can't search every room, but the other guys can. The other couple of things just to note on the character card, besides the health, name of the character, are all these abilities. So as you play through the game, you'll actually increase your adrenaline, or XP, experience, whatever you want to call it, for whatever game you're playing, and it will give you access to more and newer abilities. So what we do is we have a fun little dashboard that every player will get. So down here it'll keep track of as you defeat minions or complete objectives. You'll move this over, and while you're in the blue range, which is where you start, you have access to your blue ability, which is shove, and then in the second video I'll actually go over what all of these do. And then if you defeat enough things or complete enough missions, you move into yellow. Then you can move your little pip down here to yellow. Now you have access to shove and your shove and action. Actually, what you're probably gonna do is there's multiple of these pips. You have extras. Really, what you're probably gonna want to do is do that to keep track of them. And then you have 6 of them. So you have a baggie, all different colors. So you have blues, greens, purples, reds, yellows. Enough for 6 players. So that way each player can keep track of their own thing. You keep track of your health over here. You have spots up there for extras. So then as you keep moving along, and then when you hit into orange, you get to choose between one of the two. When you hit into red, you get to choose into one of the 3. So you get characters get a little bit more diverse as they go along. And the other things on the board is we have slots for your left hand, your right hand, 2 armored slots, and your backpack. So armor can be like, hey, I have an armor card. You can go ahead and slide your armor card in here to show that now you are equipping armor. And if it gets destroyed for some reason, you just slide it off. Very simple. Then we also have weapons, which will work the same way. So you can put a weapon like this. So now you're Jared here is carrying a light machine gun. And I'll go over some of the icons there in a minute. You also have the option of turning one sideways. So you could have, I could be carrying 2 different weapons potentially, or 2 different objects. So it's kind of a neat little extra thing that usually typical Zombicide games don't do. And then finally you have your backpack up here, which you slide cards in for when you have extra things that you're not currently carrying. So if I put my light machine gun in my backpack, I can't actually use it to attack, but I could choose before I attack, put it down here, and then use its abilities. That's pretty much how those all work. Alright, so I'm going to set that down. You also will get a matching menu with your character, and they have these little ring bases that pop on and off. So you can match your color. So I was using the orange little like pip tokens. I can put the orange little base on my miniature, so I can easily tell because they all come unpainted. And that way you can quickly just tell what your character is. So I kind of just went through all the basics of what this is. And then this is gameplay setup. Each player will have their board. You'll have the map set up, different things. You have some decks of cards set out so you can grab them easily. And that's pretty much basic gameplay. Or basic setup. The other thing, couple of things are slightly different. There's a lot of stuff that's a little bit different. But one thing is you have prototype weapons. In regular Zombicide, they're called pimp weapons. In the Black Plague Fantasy, they're referred to as, I think, vault weapons or magical weapons. And in this one, they're prototype. Basically, they're your upgraded, like, super weapons. More or less what they're. They're rare, there's less of them. But if you can find them, they're definitely nice. And they have a different colored back. And then the other things, we also have bots in this game. So you can either get a Peacekeeper bot, which is either either a sentry gun or a bot. And there's different ones. And some of the expansions add more of these. And these will be placed in various ways. You can get them. They have special rules they do, which is really fun. Just an extra little thing. So game overview. What do you do in your game? The player's turn. On the player's turn, they perform 3 actions. 3 actions allow them to do different stuff. And then the Xenos get to go. So on the Xenos, they get to spend 1 action to either attack a survivor, stand on its own. If there's nobody to attack, they move. Some of the ones get 2 actions. It'll depend. And then there's the end phase. So that's the basis of it. The game is win or lost. If the game is lost, remember a starting survivor has been eliminated. When a mission objective can no longer be fulfilled, or 2 spawn zones or more are linked by uninterrupted chain or mold zones. So these mold zones are, again, one other brand new thing of this game that the other Zombicides didn't have. But yeah, typically you lose either there's a mission objective, oh, you have to rescue this person, that person died, you can't rescue him anymore. Or you have to stop this thing from being destroyed, and it gets destroyed. Lots of them will have you, if you're just one character gets eliminated, game's over. Lots of them will say you have to escape with everybody. There are a few that maybe change that rule, but those are the two basic ways to lose. So then on the maps are kind of broke down into different areas. There are zones, which are individual squares. They're separated by different areas. So it says, delimited by thick walls in this building has 4 room zones separated by inner walls. This exterior zone straddles 2 tiles and is delimited by linear markings on the wall on the edge of the board. This room is a zone. These 2 rooms are separated by a wall with an opening. So I'm going to grab an actual tile here, and we'll take a little bit better look at that. So here's our first tile of the game. 9 different squares, essentially. 3, 3, 3. So anytime there's like a border here, this is a different space. So when your character moves, they move 1 per each space. Now there can be some of these that are separated by like doorways and walls. So like there's a big wall. Clearly I can't walk through these. There's like this gray border. But there's an opening here and there's an opening here. So I can walk through this room and I can walk out into this room. Although there are conditions on here, which I'll explain in a second. So if I flip this over to the other side, here's an interior area. So I have the same kind of idea. There's, a building here, but with like open areas here, and then this is just open zones. Alright, so that's kind of those things. There are special dark zones in the game. So there's like line of sight in here. Corridors and exterior zones, actors see straight lines. So actors are referring to any, right here. So an actor is a survivor, a Xeno, or an active machine. So basically your miniatures on the board are called actors. And they just use that as an overall term rather than trying to refer to like one, having to keep listing all 3 of them. And a zone. Inside a building, a zone is a room. Anywhere else, exterior corridor is a zone. It's an area between 2 linear markings. So a zone is a full big area that has all 4 things. But then once you get into a spot that has separate areas, they are different. So 1 zone, 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 and 1 zone. Now, if we had rooms that were blocked off from each other, which doesn't happen very often, I don't think any of the actual map ones have that. Like interior zones that are blocked off from each other. But they can have doors and things like that that will block them. So, of course, ever a door blocking an area, then is a separate zone. Accuracy in straight lines parallel to the edge of the board. Cannot see diagonally. So they cover as many zones as they can pass through. So when you're looking outside or in a hallway, you can see basically straight all the way down. When you're inside a room, you can only see into the next room. So that's another little... that's a pretty typical thing. So here's a breakdown of all of that. So it's just basically showing here where everyone can see. So Cole up here can see left and right all the way down, up and down the hallway, but you can't see around a corner into a room. And then once he gets into this room, he can only see that room. And then we have Jared's the same idea out here. He can see all the way down this way, he can see all the way down that way, but you can't see into this room because there's a blocked wall there. Mizuki here can see outside one space each room. Like 1 into this room, 1 into that room, 1 into that, and then 1 out into the hallway. that's basically how that kind of works. You can see, they can see one zone into the hallway, one into the next room, but you can't see like 4 rooms. You can't see through like multiple rooms. You can see into the next room. If there's a hallway, you can kind of bypass that. And that's showing Vivian here. She can't see down here because there's a wall. She can't see here because there's a door. She can see one room up, but she can't see to the second room. So it's pretty explanatory. Open area, see straight through. Room, see like one room by it. And that kind of breaks down your movement same way. Can't move through doors, can't move through walls, can't move diagonally. And then we have different equipment. So we have melee weapons, various swords, tattle prods. And then you have ranged weapons, different types of guns. Ranged are broke down into 2 different ammo types. Now, you don't actually have like an ammo limit. Just assume that you always have enough ammunition to like reload your weapons, or any of that stuff. But you have 2 different types, and this is again another huge difference in this game. Is they have bullet type ammo, so like some guns use a little bullet, and then some use energy weapons, which have a little energy field. For the most part, they work the exact same. The one little bit difference is bullets cannot be used in exterior zones. So what that means is if we go back to our handy dandy map here, inside the gray areas, or you're in a building, so you can fire a gun inside there. Essentially what the game is trying to play very realistically with science, is that once you step out onto this brown earth, like planet terrain, you can't fire a gun anymore because there's no oxygen out there. And you need oxygen, essentially, to fire a gun. And that's also another thing in here. I haven't gotten to it yet, but anywhere there's an airlock is the only way to get out of a building, and there's usually a little O2 room. So, in the game, if I can find it, you will have special item cards called oxygen tapes. Equipped in a body swap, your survivor may go to exterior zones. So this is kind of a different thing from the other Zombicide games, because the other ones you're generally not limited on where you go. You can go anywhere you want at any point as long as there's an open pathway. This way, if you want to leave and go out into the open areas, you're going to have to get O2. And so, lots of times, the game will be built something like this, where it's not that big of a deal. But you could have a map that's something like this, where now I have to get from this area to that area, so you're going to have to use your O2, and it's only 2 spots you have to cross, so it might not be that big of a deal. But it also could be something crazy like this. You can set up multiple of them, tiles out there. So it's like, if you have to get, depending on the base. So like, here these 2 are right across from each other still. But if you want to get up to that one, you're going to have to go out and go up there. And that's if the airlocks turn that way. What if the airlock was turned that way? Now you have to survive all the way on the outside. And so that just takes extra time and does stuff. So that's kind of a neat mechanic for the game. They can have a lot of interior zones. They can have exterior zones to play around with. And that's why energy weapons are important. So another big mechanic of the Zombicide game are noisy equipment. All the equipment will usually have either makes noise with a little hazard sign, or won't make noise with like a square. So the whole point of noise is wherever you make noise, or you do actions that make noise, you put a token down, and that's going to attract the Xenos or zombies towards you. Yeah, so here's a giant breakdown of all of the different stuff on the items. So I'm just going to grab one of the item cards and kind of show it off here. So on here we have a thing saying you put it in your fist. So it's not saying it's a melee weapon. It's showing that it goes in the hand slot. And it shows that it makes noise. When you shoot your machine gun, it uses bullets. And it's a gun down there, just in case you need to know that. Like the difference being, let me see if I can find a melee weapon. So like there's your, there, that'll be a little bit easier. So you can see the sledge does not make sound when you hit, like hitting with a blunt object versus hitting with a machine gun, which is going to fire. Energy versus bullets, melee with the knife versus gun with the range. So the first box there is going to show the range of the weapon. A melee weapon there has to be used at 0 spaces. So it has to attack a Xeno that's in the exact same space as you. Or the gun can shoot 1 to 3 spaces away. But again, that also means it has to be 1 to 3 spaces away. So if let me grab a Zombo. Alright, so here's one of our Xenos here. So in my little picture up here, let me back this up just a little. We can kind of show this a little bit better. So I can hit with a melee weapon with my sledge because I'm in the same space. Now, if I was in the same space and I have my light machine gun, I cannot hit. I have to hit either 1 to 3 spaces away. So I can hit 1 space, or I could hit the farther off 2 spaces away, but I can't shoot them with the gun. So this is an important thing in the game to kind of keep both types of weapons around, because you never know which one you're going to need. Alright, then the second icon on there is a set of dice. So we're going to get a set of dice here, just regular D6s. And that's going to say how many dice you get who roll. Essentially trying to get damage. And then the next symbol after that, the third one, which is the target symbol with the plus number and a plus, is how many you need to roll, or how many hits you have to roll to do that. So it's essentially your accuracy. So with the sledge, I get to roll 3 dice. And for every 3 plus, I get a hit. So if I roll my 3 dice, I rolled 6, 5, and 4. So I do 3. I get 3 hits off of that. So that's pretty good. And that's what the skull is. It means I do 3 damage. And if I attacked with instead if I was attacking with the machine gun, now I get to roll 5 dice, which is better. It can potentially do more damage. But I only do it if I roll a 5 or higher. So I only rolled 1 5. So I'm only doing 1 damage. So there's kind of the difference. Some of the weapons might roll less dice, so less potential damage, but they have better accuracy. I can hit someone easier if they're standing next to me with a sledgehammer, versus trying to shoot someone at a far distance with a gun. But of course, the difference is also if you're shooting them at a distance, they're not going to be able to hit you. And sometimes 1 damage might be more than enough for what you need to do. And there are weapons that have higher and different amounts for each thing. We have like a sniper rifle, which does 1 dice, but you get 2 damage. So that kind of makes sense. If you get into the prototype weapons, you can get something like the prototype heavy shotgun, which has 2 dice, does 4, but it does 2 damage. So that's definitely par. Then we also have some that are a little bit weaker, like these starting weapons, which are gray, which does 1 damage, roll 2 dice, and has 5. So it has the starting weapons have pretty bad accuracy. Yeah, so that's definitely cool. Then the other thing I didn't show you on these cards, but we did have on one like this, is that double red symbol here. So that is dual wielding. So there's either gonna have 2 guns or 2 swords or knives. If you have dual weapons, with the same name in each hand, you may use both of them with a single action, but they must be aimed at the same zone. So what that is saying is if I had 2 of these SMGs out, during my turn, instead of getting to roll, so if I'm shooting at him from 1 distance away, we'll move him 1 over. So if I was just attacking normally, I roll 2 dice, but since I have 2 of them, I can spend 1 action, and I can roll 4 dice instead. And then now if I only got 5 anyhow, so I got 1 hit. But it could have been better than spending one action for two and then one for this, and now I've wasted two of my three actions during the turn. But if I'm only shooting that one guy, that's all I needed to do. So this also ends up with a fun aspect of the game of, as you find more weapons and different things, you might want to trade them with the other survivors you're playing with. So maybe some people can get dual weapons, or the long range if they need a long range, or a short range if they need a short range. And give your guys different stuff. Although each survivor has their own different abilities, and some of them work better for ranged weapons. Some work better for melee weapons. Some are better at searching. So that's all interesting there. So how do we were talking about doing noise. So firing guns or rifles make noise. You place this noise token where a survivor resolved its action, stays in the zone where it was produced, even if the survivor moves. A single action can only produce a single noise, no matter how many dice are rolled. And they're removed at the end phase. So that means the zombies are going to go after these noise tokens. So if you fire some guns, and let's say you take 3 actions, you fire 3 times, you're going to put down 3 noise tokens, and they're going to come towards that noise. You could fire 1 and then move away, and then maybe hide in the room. They're going to go towards that versus, they're going to try and go towards the noise if they can't see any survivors. So we kind of went over inventory. There's some stuff they'll have that fist symbol like the guns. There'll be stuff for the body, which means it can only go on the body. Some things will say they have to go in the backpack. Very simple there. Then there's some different types of Xenos or zombies. There are workers, which are your basic ones. They deal 1 damage. They take 1 point to eliminate, and they give you 1 experience. Now this is a big thing to remember for this type of game. 1 damage doesn't sound like much, except your characters have 2 to 3 health. So 1 damage can be very bad. The tanks do 2 damage. So they're big, heavier guys, so they do more damage. And they take more damage to eliminate. The hunters, they only do 1 damage and 1, kind of like the workers, but they get to do 2 activations, so they get to move and attack or double attack. They're a lot quicker. They're kind of like the trade-off. The tank gets bigger health and more damage. And then finally, there are abominations. So this set only includes the spoiler, but some of the other expansions and Kickstarters and things like that will have more different ones, so you can always swap them out. These guys typically deal 3 damage, take 3 to eliminate. But a 3 damage is required to defeat them. No weapon features such high damage in the game, so to do so, you have to either use a Hellfire or a concentrated attack. So they have special ways to beat this. Some of the other games you had to throw like a molten cocktail, or some way of setting them on fire. This is kind of the same idea with that. You usually have to use some sort of like big thing. I know the Western one, you can use dynamite. Alright, and then he has special rules there as well. So another new thing to the game for the Xeno or Invader version is mold. So these are little mold tokens. So we're going to get a pile of these. There's active and inactive sides. And these will spread throughout the game. You place them on the board. There's big tiles to be used. So mold general rules. Move any object and door tokens in the zone. Look at the objective tokens and remove them. So you may have lost the mission. So you gotta stop the mold, otherwise it could defeat you. All walls in the zone except the ones leading to the exterior are considered to have an opening. Zone cannot be searched and lost all its properties. So if it's active, it's considered a room you can do, but you can't search it. Hellfire flips it to its inactive side. The game is lost as soon as 2 or more spawn zones are linked by uninterrupted chain. Yeah, so I don't want to get into every single detail, but this is basically what happens with these zones. They flip over, this mold, it flips over in a zone, makes it so you can't use that anymore. You still see through it, all that stuff, but you can't search that room anymore for items, so that could definitely cause a problem. And then, like, these red objects here are spawn zones. This is where the Xenos will spawn from every turn. So you don't want these two to link together. You can see how dangerous they are. They're right there trying to get next to each other. And if that happens, then you lose the game. So like they're showing it right down there on the bottom. But most of these only be moved because of that spoiler abomination. So if you're using a different abomination, you have a different one in play, he might not be as much of an issue. Alright, what can players do on their turn? Players have 3 actions. Players can move from one zone to the other. Enter a zone containing Xenos. Ends your move. So you can't move through groups of enemies for free. You get to them, they stop. If you want to move out of a room, you have to spend 1 action per every character in there. So saying here, it says, she's in a zone with 2 workers. She wants to leave. She spends 1 move action to move out of there. Then 2 more actions, 1 per each worker. So it's for 3 actions. So since she only has 3, she has to spend her entire turn just to get away from them. If there had been a 3rd one in there, she wouldn't have 4 actions at the beginning of the game. You can earn some more later. So she wouldn't even be able to leave. So you have to be cautious on where the zombies are versus where you are. Otherwise, you could get trapped. And the thing is, when you attack a zone, you attack everything in the zone. So if there was, I'll just grab 3 guys here. So, if I attack into this zone, like with my submachine gun, and I do 2 damage, I deal 2 damage to this, I deal 1 damage to him, 1 to him, and I have 1 left over. I just spread the damage out. And then the same way, though, is if I'm in this zone with these guys, and these guys all get to attack, they each get to perform an attack, so they get to do 3 damage to me. So unless I have some sort of defense to block that will probably kill me. So getting next to a group of zombies or Xenos in this case is a very bad idea. You can search. Search is pretty easy. So when you search a room, you can only search room zones if there are no Xenos. They draw a card from the equipment deck and replace it in their survivor inventory, rearranging for free, or discard it. But you can only play 1 per turn. Soldiers can only search the security rooms, which are bright red, which matches their icon. So that's kind of your thing, is your soldier characters will probably be running around trying to do the damage and destroy things to help your civilians get to run around and do the other stuff. Like they may be running around collecting objectives, searching rooms to find equipment, while the soldier guys are going to be probably taking the damage. You can activate a door. It is free. You can perform once per turn. So this is kind of one thing that's a little bit different than some of the other games. The other games either have doors that you have to break down, spending weapons or abilities or something to break it down. These ones, you can just open them and then close them. Some of the other Zombicide games, once the door is open, you can't close it again. This is kind of a neat feature there. But if a door gets destroyed, then it can no longer be opened or closed. It can no longer be closed. It also says there's a reserve for how many doors can be opened. Then there's special colored doors as well. So if we look at our token sheet here, we have all these neutral doors, which are going to show they're open because they're different colored. And there's broken doors. So you have to assume that any area just typically has, you have to put one of these doors on them and then you get rid of them. So it says that survivors can either place or remove a closed door token, but there's only so many. So this action can be performed by a door opening. So you place it on there to show it's open, and then you remove it. So yeah, there's some different things there. Equipment, you can deattach equipment if you need to, move equipment around. I'm not going to get into it. So you can also spend, on your turn, you spend a point of your action reorganizing or trading with other players in your zone. So if you picked up new equipment, you can do this for free. But otherwise, if you decide, oh crap, like I'm at a range distance, I need to switch to my shotgun instead of my melee sword because you didn't have it equipped, you have to spend an action to do that. Then we have combat actions, which combat actions can be either attacking with a melee, attacking with a range. So either one, they're all considered combat actions. And that's important to remember because there are some things in the game that reference specifically boosting a combat action. Some things will reference upping like a ranged attack or upping a melee attack. So if we look at our Jared character here, he has his first orange says you get +1 die for your melee attacks. He has a red one that says get 1 die for his ranged attacks. But then his next one down says +1 free combat action. So if he has the combat one, he can do either ranged or melee. You can also take an objective or activate something. You can make noise, which sometimes might help to distract guys, or do nothing. So if you have 3 tokens, 3 actions, you might only need to use 1 of them. Alright, so we've talked about basic player actions. Like, the other thing they can do is we have machine actions. So we already mentioned we have 2 different machines in here, which have various different things. Again, there's more in the other expansions. So it says, they have their reference card skills ability. Survivor can control a machine by possessing either the corresponding remote token or a remote control skill. Cost of 1 action. Survivor may perform 1 action listed below the machine they control unless they're machine related. The skills other abilities don't apply. So to give them various different abilities to do. So like the Peacekeeper here, which is the bigger guy on the bottom, the green one, he can move, do melee actions, do range actions, showing on his card. And then he can also controlling survivor stands in the same zone as the mouse for 1 move action for free. So they can kind of move with the bot as well, kind of like ride him. And then the sentry can just do ranged actions. Because basically they plot down somewhere and that's where they sit. But yeah, it's kind of neat. So you get the option to do extra different attacks with these guys. And then says, feature several models of bots and sentry guns. Otherwise stated, the mission can be swapped out for one another as long as it's mentioning a bot or sentry gun. So that's kind of cool. You get different ones throughout the expansions if you want to get different things with different abilities. Then when we get to the Xeno phase, the Xenos do a couple things. They have step 1, they'll activate. So they'll try to attack, doing their various amounts of damage. Again, they attack the zone for whoever's in there. So they'll just attack that. If they can't attack, so it says your Xenos fight in groups. All Xenos activated the same zone damage survivors in a joint attack. Even if there's so much damage, it would be overkill. But if there's multiple survivors, you can spread the damage out. So if you have 2 Xenos in an area and you have 2 survivors, you could have each one take 1 point, or you could have one take 0 and one take 1 damage. You get, as a player, to decide how you spread your damage around. Then we have the same thing there. I guess they really don't say is, if you had a way that like wouldn't lose you the game for someone dying, you could throw like 5 damage on that guy if you had like 5 guys in there and have someone else not take any damage. The other thing you do is move. If they can't attack, then they will move. They will, basically the way the Xenos work for moving is they figure out who they're going to move towards. They pick that zone. This is the zone I'm moving to, and then they do whatever their move action is. If they have 1 or 2 movements, if there's a door in the way, then they will have to find the way around the door. If there's something else in their way. So how do they decide what they do? Is first thing they always do is they always go after whoever they can see first. So like this guy can see these guys, this guy can see her. So they'll always go after the ones they can see first. Like he'll move down this way. And then what they do is if they can't see anybody, like these guys in here, or this guy up here, they will go towards wherever the noisiest area is. So every survivor is considered to be one noise. So this has two noise here, one noise, one noise, one noise. So even though this guy is right here, and this, because this is inactive, but this guy is right here, he's not going to go up and go around this way. He's going to go after the one he can see. And then this one's going to come out this way, and he's going to go towards the noisiest zone because he can't see her through that wall. Because it's not broke through that one. So that's basically how, and these guys, again, they'll always move towards whatever the noisiest zones are. But again, most of these guys only have one movement, so like he will move one to here, then his next turn he'll be able to see straight across and see them. So that's how they all work. If you have the hunter who gets double, he will attack, move attack, or move attack, or move, depending on where he's at. Then after everyone's done moving and attacking, you spawn. So they'll have the red spawn zones on the board, which are these little alien tokens. There is also purple and green ones, which will have special effects. There's different missions on the board. You'll reference them. Some might say, hey, these won't activate until this happens, or if you do this thing, it'll turn those ones off. They're various things. Then to spawn, you just select the spawn zone, draw Xeno cards from the pile, and you'll play them. So each card will have 4 different things. It'll be blue, yellow, orange, and red, and that will correspond back to your character's experience level, the blue, yellow, orange, and red. So whatever survivor has the highest color is what you spawn. So if you have 3 characters that are still in blue, because it's the starting area, but you get 1 character like Jared who's up in yellow, you'll always spawn for yellow. So this is an important thing to remember. The higher level your guys get, the more abilities they're going to get, which will help them do more different damage or different actions and things like that. So you don't want one survivor running out, killing everything by himself while everyone else kind of hides, because then if they have to fight, because he starts dying and he has to run away, they're not going to be as powerful, and you're going to be summoning a bunch more guys. But yeah, these cards are always the same. They'll tell you who you're spawning. So like we have the deck of those here, so I'll have like a thing on the back, so you can mix it with other characters from other sets. We have like workers, which these ones spawn 8, 6, 2, or 4. We have the tanks, which is spawn basically the same, roughly the same numbers, a little bit less. You can get hunters, mold spawn, which are special spawns. Then you have somewhat pure later on here. These are harder difficulties, so you can pull like half the deck out if you want a little bit easier, or you can just play like the second half if you want a little bit harder. And then there's the abomination or extra activation spawns and abomination spawns, different things like that. Again, the second video we'll look over those a little bit more closely. So extra activation will say basically they get taking extra turns. So instead of spawning new ones, they get a move. So it's always something to keep in mind. Don't be like, okay, these guys can only move 1 space. As long as I'm 1 space away, I'm fine. Because if they draw an extra activation, they can all move. Or you might be like, oh, I have 1 guy in my zone. I can afford to take that hit from him. Except if he draws an extra activation, now he's done a second hit to you. And then the spoiler abomination, you draw him. He has some special effects he'll do. So I'll kind of look over that more when we go into the thing about him. Then we went over combat already, so I'm not going to re-go over all that. There is a targeting priority, though, which I did skip. So it's going to be tank, abomination, workers, and then hunters. It's essentially, if you're attacking a group of enemies, you have to hit damage and hit the biggest, slowest ones first, down to the smaller, faster ones. So if you're shooting into a zone, so this is only if you're using a ranged weapon. If you're doing melee, you can pick who you want to target. But if you're doing ranged, because you gain that advantage of not being in the same zone as them, you have to shoot the tank or abomination first, which means you have to do at least 2 to 3 damage before before you can actually kill them, which can be very hard. If you are running around with MSG and you're only doing 1 damage, you can only roll 2 dice, so you're only going to do 2 damage at max. You would never be able to take out an Abomination. You might be able to take out a tank, but you have to hit with both dice. And then you move downwards. And that's pretty much just similar. There is friendly fire, so survivors can't shoot yourself or hit yourself. But sometimes you have to shoot or use a machine in your zone where a teammate's at. If you roll any misses, the attack automatically hits the survivor standing in the zone. So again, if I was rolling for that submachine gun and I rolled my 2 dice, I needed to roll 5 or higher. I missed twice. I just shot my teammate twice. It's basically saying I can't hit the broadside of a barn. So shooting into a zone with your teammates is only recommended as a last resort. But again, it doesn't apply for melee actions. In melee, it's assuming that you have enough time to move around and hit who you're trying to hit. Then a new thing for this game is concentrated attacks. This isn't in regular Zombicide. So survivors performing melee ranged attacks, either by themselves or using a machine, may concentrate their attack towards a single target to increase their chance of overcoming its defenses or eliminating it. To perform a concentrated attack, design a single specific target amongst those attacks and multiply the damage. And multiply the damage value by the amount of hits obtained. So 1 success is damage times 1, 2 successes is damage times 2, and so on and so forth. Only the designated target may be hit. Successful rolls are lost. Leftover damage is lost. So, like that's saying here, if I'm using this light machine gun with 5 dice, so I roll my 5 dice, and I need to hit 5 pluses. If I targeted just one of those guys, because I want to make sure he's dead, I have 2 hits. So now, that guy only required 1 hit for me to take out, but now I know he's taken out. Again, you're probably not going to use concentrated attacks on workers, because they only have 1 health. When you're rolling 5 dice, if you're rolling only 2 dice, it might be definitely worth it. But yeah, now if I just attacked that tile, I would have 2 damage I could spread out, and I could have taken out 2, versus just guaranteeing 1. So that's kind of a neat mechanic in the game. So that's definitely cool. And it's actually per every success. So if I had rolled 3, I would have done times 3. Now, if I had a weapon that instead, if I rolled 2 dice, but my weapon normally did 2 damage, I would now do 4 damage. So you could hit something a lot harder, and you could take out them bigger guys a lot easier. We went over damage priority, friendly fire. I did not flip the page. So I kind of briefly talked about oxygen tanks, and security, and there's hellfire, which we also mentioned. So we have flamethrowers you can get. Basically just sets a room on fire and kills everything in the room. So it works much like dynamite or grenades or things like that in the other Zombicide games. Just instead of drawing 1 card and doing it, this one you have to have the canister and the flamethrower. So it's a little bit harder to get, but you have them concentrated attacks to make up for it. But it kills everything in the zone, your guys included. We have special security rooms, which allow the soldiers to search for stuff. We talked about the O2 cans and the airlocks, so I'm not going to go over them too much more. There's not a whole lot left in here. The last big thing would be Ultra Red Mode, is if you're playing and you're going long enough, your character gets past the red part, which is 43 experience on the board. And then what you can do is then reset your character back down to 0, keep gaining experience. Then when you hit that orange or red area again, you can choose one of the other abilities. So it lets you keep playing the game. You're still considered to be in the red zone the entire time. So like the hard difficulty, but it lets you earn more skills. So if you're getting struggling where you're just not getting on, you're just killing zombies, at least you have a way to get more attacks. There's a way to play with extra survivors by adding extra spawn tokens, stuff like that. Tuning difficulty we kind of talked about. And then there's the missions. So we get to all the missions, and they're laid out pretty explanatory. Easy, how many players times, which tiles you'll need, how to lay them out, how things starting on the board should be. Sometimes you'll start with Xenos out on the board. Sometimes you have your turrets out there, your starting zone, your exit zones. And then what you need to do. So like this one says, escape with the prototype. Take the one objective and then get out. So here's your objective. So you start right here. You have to get your characters to here to get to the objective, and then you have to get here. So you have to go either this airlock or that airlock to get over here. Now, you could easily try and run. You could try and run through the building here, or you could try and go around the outside and come back up the inside there too. That's a different way to do it as well. And there's some special setups and special rules that you get, and then that's just the beginning mission. And then they go some of the lot bigger tiles. You're doing 6 tiles. Eventually, you get some that use all 9 tiles. And since they're all double-sided, there's plenty of different play value. So like here, yeah, you got like airlock to this one, airlock to that one. You can run airlock out to there, or this one to that one, or that one. You have all sorts of different ways you have to go. And then the back of the book talks about skills, which we'll go over when we're talking about the characters themselves. Yeah, so and then the back is a recap of all that stuff. So that's your basic how to play. We showed off. I didn't show off all the maps in total, but I will go over all of them in the part 2 video, and we'll go over all the characters and all the minis and all that fun stuff. This is just kind of like, hey, here's what the game is in case you didn't know. See you guys then. Bye.